You're right, Gangrene UK. You're joining us for episode 46. I'm joined by Kane and James. Thanks for coming, guys. And tonight we're going to talk about day one of the combine. We're looking at some draftees that we like, that we might want the Jets to pick up if they fall. And we're also going to talk about a few people who we think would fit in other teams. So day one of the combine, guys, is going to be Kane's favorite section, tight ends. Everybody's desperate need in wide receivers. And then for the first year in a long time, the position we don't need, quarterbacks.
Yeah.
How are you feeling going into this at the minute, guys? Kane?
I can't wait. We've been talking about combine for ages and we missed it last year. We weren't the same, but I really can't wait.
Yeah. What about you, James?
Some time off work, to
Yeah, I'm pumped. It kind of signals the start of the next year, really, doesn't it? And we're going to properly look into these guys, find out what they actually weigh, see the proper heights, and
and that all-important hand size.
Yeah.
Makes no sense to me, but we're going to look at it anyway.
No, Field's got small hands, so that's why he fumbles.
So yeah, whether you agree with the combine, disagree with the combine, it's here, it's happening. So guys, I think we're going to go through it position by position. So we'll start with tight ends. So James, who's your three kind of tight ends to keep an eye on?
So I'll probably start with Jalen Widemer from Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Jake Ferguson from Wisconsin and Trey McBride from Colorado State as well. Would be my picks.
Nice. What about you, Ken?
Isaiah Likely, Jalen Widemeyer, and Jake Ferguson.
Nice. Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I've got Jeremy Rooker in mind. Obviously, he's a Jets fan. I wanted to put him in for that. And I had Jake Ferguson as well from Wisconsin because I think he's slightly slept on. And then I also have Sam Laporte, who is the junior from Iowa. So what we'll do is we'll talk about the ones that we've agreed on, and then we'll have a chat about the others. Right then, guys. So let's start this out with the Texas A&M tight end. So we'll start with Widemer, or however you want to say it. The junior, he's 6'5", 255 pounds, which is pretty nice size for a tight end. I think all three of us had him, didn't we, in our list? Oh, there was definitely two of us that said it. So, James, do you want to break him down? Give us his stats for the year, why we like him?
Yeah, so he's 3 years of playing time anyway at Texas A&M. He's got this year anyway, 515 yards, 4 touchdowns, 40 receptions. Give his height and weight already, but yeah, he's also a great blocker. I don't know his exact blocking stats, but he's not giving up many sacks at all and tends to make good holes in the running game. So I'm a big fan of Widemer for filling a big gap at tight end.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things as well where the blocking stats aren't really readily available because it's not something that's scored. So you've got to watch the hours and hours and hours of film, which, to be fair, I don't mind doing on some players. I just don't like watching Texas that much. Kane, how do you feel about him?
I'm half and half of his blocking work. He does it good sometimes he doesn't, but he's got good hands, great length, because Amphlus.
I love the length, guys. I love the length.
He grabs the ball out the air, makes contested catches in the red zone over defenders. So red zone threat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite happy with all of that. I mean, it's a pretty steady thing. I think I would have liked more from the catches when I compare him to other people that we're going to look at. And I certainly would have want more in the red zone, but actually he wasn't used that way Texas used him very, very differently, and it worked for them. So fair play. Next person we'll go to Jake Ferguson. He's Wisconsin senior, 6'5", 244 pounds. So he's a little bit lighter than Weidemer. Kane, do you have his numbers? Or do you want me to do him?
Yeah.
I've got that one. Fair dues. So yeah, he's got 46 catches for 450 yards, 3 touchdowns, average of about 9.8. Now, I like Ferguson just because the Badgers produce good blocking, valuable tight ends. He's not a superstar. I mean, I know you had him as well, James. For me, it's just he's going to go out. He'll be able to pick up the blocking schemes really well. He can catch when he needs to, but he's not going to be an elite catcher first year. He's a bit of a project. I see him a little bit later, maybe late second, early third, if I'm being honest. James, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, echoing a lot of the same sentiments. Obviously, Wisconsin run a pro style offense as well, and he's started in that. I don't know if he started, but he's definitely played some heavy time for 4 years. So he should be pretty good and pretty plug and play. Maybe not catching, but could fill that blocking gap and then get someone else to catch and fill up some more holes.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the fact that the Jets have spent a week with him.
Yeah, that's a big thing, isn't it?
And he's fast, which, I mean, coming in at that weight and that size, he has to be fast. Yeah, he's good, but yeah, it's that inconsistency of what you're going to expect from a mid-round player. He's not my number one tight end on my board, but the whole point of this is to start looking at players that, let's face it, none of us really know who's going to go. If we get it right, we got lucky because we're not that good. None of us are. Nobody who sits at home is that good. But it's about looking at players that if they do fall, why we would take them as opposed to why we should take them.
Yeah.
So next one, guys, I think we've got to go for Isaiah Likely. He's the senior. I can't remember what school. Give me the school again. Coastal, isn't it? Yeah. I knew it was Carolina. Just for some reason I was going to say Tar Heels. He's 6'3", 238. So he is the lightest tight end we're going to be talking about. 59 receptions, 912 yards, 12 TDs. Now, I'm not going to accept he's playing in a worse division against worse players because the kid stood out. Kane, I know you're quite high on him. You have been for a few months. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what you saw on him?
I love him.
Love him.
I've been raving about him since the start of the season, I think. But he's very fast, gets open well, making him pass catching threat, and has the ability to make defenders miss at the same time. She has the strength to fight defenders off after the catch as well, which is good. And is a good red zone catcher.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. To be fair, he's definitely got to improve the blocking. Like, he's going to be facing some pretty big players in the league when he comes in. But I still think you take the risk on him because his ability to make the competitive catch, kind of those game-changing plays, I think that's what we need, especially at a tight end. I can't really remember us having a super dynamic tight end, so I'd like that.
I would kind of agree with you there. I can't really remember us ever having that power tight end. I mean, we've had some decent tight ends in our time.
Yeah.
But I don't think we've had fully dynamic, especially not what the league needs now and the way certain offensive schemes, especially our new one, kind of call for that. Like when you've got a dynamic tight end, the league opens up for you, really.
Yeah, it's changed.
So let's do a couple of quick ones where we're not going to go into too much detail on. I think we'll start with Trey McBride. 6'3", 257 pounds. 90 catches, guys. So he's had the game time. 1,121 yards, 1 touchdown. So where you're sitting on McBride, I mean, personally, I think he's good, but I don't think he's great.
He's come out of nowhere, really.
What
Look, since the season ended, I hadn't heard of him until after the season, and then everyone's just hyped about him. But for him to get that many yards and only get 1 touchdown is a bit hard.
Yeah, it's a tough one to look at. What are you thinking, James? Because obviously McBride was in your list.
Yeah, and mainly probably just to bring him up as a talking point, because that yardage is just crazy. No one's within 100 yards, I don't think. Maybe there is, but he's quite clear at the top, and probably have to take another look at his highlights, see how he's getting majority of these catches. But from what I see, he seems to be a weapon, and we need him.
Maybe he's played so well that everyone's fretting about him, so he can't get in the end zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always those players that get super hyped up until the combine.
Yeah.
And McBride, for me, he's one of those players that at the combine, he's either going to sink or swim. They're either going to go, like, what he's shown on tape does not match what he does in the weight room, or he doesn't quite have it, or it's going to be, you know what, this hype is justified. He was used wrong in college.
Yeah.
I mean, McBride, for me, he's on the opposite side of what Laporte is. So Sam Laporte comes from Iowa. He's 6'4", so he's a little bit taller. He's 249 pounds, so he's a little bit lighter. He had 53 receptions for 670 yards, 3 TDs, but with an average of about the same, about 12.5. Now, the only thing that goes different there is Laporte comes from, he's a junior. I think McBride's a senior, isn't he? And he comes from tight end U. I mean, you look at the tight ends that have came out of Iowa over the last few years, TJ Hawkinson, Kittle, Noah Fant. I mean, they're all players in the league. I think Noah Fant's a good player. He's just used really badly. And I think Laporte is going to be kind of the same thing. I mean, I could actually probably see Denver taking him in the draft. I want to see him go at least late first, early second. He's got to be top 3 tight ends, in my opinion, just because of what he's done and where he's done it. Because Iowa demand a lot from tight ends, whereas I can't remember, where's McBride from again?
Colorado State.
Yeah, I don't watch much Colorado, but by looks of it, they are super demanding on their tight end, but they just don't trust him in the red zone. Do you see what I'm saying with them two players? Like, Laporte, I mean, I said his name earlier, and you both kind of, oh yeah. It wasn't a case of, oh yeah, we know, like, yeah, he should be on the list. I mean, I've got him going around 75 on the board on just skill alone. So he's in the top 100 players, but is he? Like, it should be higher because, let's face it, you ain't taking a running back, and I've got 3 running backs in the top 100. So, yeah, Laporte and McBride to me are almost the same. Their whole future depends on combine.
I think all the tight ends, like every single one, depends on the combine this year because they're all good or not, or they've got some stats that are good and some that aren't.
Yeah, there isn't Kyle Pitts, is there?
No.
And I think that's what's exciting about it, because we need this position. Because I don't think there's any good ones in free agency that I really want, that we're not going to have to pay stupid money for.
Yeah. I mean, we might get a bargain late in the draft. We might get one of these tight ends late in the draft. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple on there. I mean, I'm not going to say any more now. But the last one we're going to talk about, guys, is Jeremy Rooker from the Ohio State. Senior, 6'5", 250. He only had 26 catches for 309 yards, but he got 3 touchdowns and an average 11.9. Now, obviously, Rooker's dad is like #1 Jets fan. I mean, #1 hype man. I mean, I'm all over it. Like, I want his dad on the flight crew, just going crazy. I know we've watched a bit of Ohio this year. I'm guilty of not really watching much of Rooker too early.
Yeah, it was bigger last year when Justin Fields was there. But I think they used him a lot more then.
Yeah, I think you can when you've got Justin Fields, can't you? Because he's a little bit better than what they've had this year, I think.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on him, James? Because obviously it came onto the Jets screen in the last couple of weeks, really. He hasn't been going crazy, but I mean, he was at the Senior Bowl, was he not?
Yep.
So yeah, we've had time with him, which he'll probably wet himself being a Jets fan. So yeah, what are you thinking?
Yeah, no, I would say watched Ohio State this year, and you struggle to keep your eyes off Olave or Wilson. But I think he definitely did the job. Stroud was kept safe a lot of the year. They've also got a stud O-line, but yeah, good school like Ohio. I think he's worth a shot on a late pick anyway. I think he's still 100. I saw on a board. So
I have him at 84.
Is it? I see.
Well, mine are a little bit jaded, I think, this year, because I have put some personal numbers in there. So yeah, that's us kind of concluding on tight ends. I'm quite happy with what we're saying. I think we've talked about some good players. I wouldn't be upset if we got any of them anywhere in the draft, really. But I think we're talking probably about the top 6 tight ends in the country there. I don't think we've really missed anybody out other than maybe Jaleel Billingsley. But Alabama, he'll get his look. Personally, I think he's too light, but yeah. So what we'll do now is we'll move on to the next group that go out on the Thursday at the Combine. So day 1 sees tight ends. We've done that. We're going to move on to wide receivers. So wide receivers, guys. Kane, who are you taking?
Traylon Burks, of course. Eric Azukanama, Texas Tech, and Garrett Wilson, Ohio.
Nice. James, what about you?
The connection was a bit choppy there. I think I'm back. So I'd go with David Bell, USC, Johan Dotson from Penn State, and Drake London. David Bell's from Purdue. So
yeah, no, nice. Glad you got it right on this take.
yeah.
So mine, I'm going to throw in some late ones and some early one. George Pickens from Georgia. I just think he's going to be a decent wide receiver in the league. From Ohio, the best wide receiver in this class, Chris Olave, the best wide receiver in last year's class. And then also Justin Ross from Clemson. So, tell you what, we'll start off with Traylon Burks, because obviously we have talked about him quite a bit on a few different shows. 6'3", 225 pound, and Kane's choice. Kane, tell us why. What have you seen with watching the Woo Pigs better than everybody else?
66 catches, 1,104 yards, 11 touchdowns, average 16.7 a catch. He's not only big, but he's physical and fast. Compared to a hybrid between DK Metcalf and AJ Brown, he's got 5XL custom-made gloves, whose hands are so big. Brilliant blocker. Rarely seen him brought down in first contact. Took snaps from everywhere, so he's three-dimensional, versatile.
Nice. So yeah, it's although they don't use the most like crazy playbook because he's lined up everywhere, at least he knows a decent amount of routes.
He's got experience of career.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty fair. Where do you sit on Treylon Burks, James, and don't say he's this?
No, yeah, I'm a big fan. I think this crew is very stacked. This wide receiver grouping at the top is very stacked, and I really don't think you can go too wrong with many of them. And yeah, really like Burks. Good production. Yeah, agree. Fan.
Yeah, I think everything about him does scream that he should be a top wide receiver. I'm a little bit on the fence with him, just over on the fact that it's another small school that doesn't run a complex route tree. And we tried this with Denzel Mims, who I think came out with about the same size and weight. Because I know Mims was around about the 230 and then he dropped because of all the illnesses. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I wouldn't be upset with it. Like I say, I'm not overly keen at the moment. I'm interested to see how he handles the combine. What about if we go to Johan Dotson from Penn State?
Yep.
Tell us a bit about him, James. He was yours.
Yeah, no worries. I'll bring you through his numbers. So he's got 3 years playing time, 1,182 yards this year, 12 touchdowns, 182 pounds, and he's 5'9", I believe. So a bit on the smaller side, and probably going to be more in that kind of end of the second, maybe start of the third. But for some reason, watched a lot of Penn State games this year, and he took over the game a lot of the time. I remember one game they were playing, they were down, and the coach literally said, like, "Oh, next half we need to get it to Dotson," and that's exactly what they did. I can't remember the exact stats from the game, but he went off, and yeah, I've kind of been a fan since then. So.
Yeah, I mean, Dotson's one of them. He sits on like just on the outside of my list. One, I like Penn State as a school. I just think that they bring decent footballers with good ethic. A couple of them go a bit wayward, but one thing about him I do like is his body control. Like he moves well side to side. He can turn blind sides really well on defenders, and he's an exploiter, which is what you want to see. I just do have a little bit of a worry on his size, which I feel like I've got a worry on every single player on the list, if I'm honest. But yeah, I mean, it's a good one. Again, I wouldn't be upset going for Dotson. Where are you sitting on it, Kane?
Yeah, a little bit undersized, but he does make those crazy catches. He jumps high for the ball, takes the ball, and yeah, as you said, like his body contortion, like it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about my first one, and it's just for the fact that it's Chris Olave, and he deserves to be talked about before everybody else. Now, Olave for me, he's one of those where last year he was Justin Fields' number one wide receiver. I think he got injured in a bowl game or just before and decided not to declare for the draft, which in last year's draft, he was a good wide receiver. He would have went pretty high, but he wouldn't have went number one wide receiver. So he stayed this year. And I think going into this year, he was on something like 1,700 yards on 100 receptions. The guy has took the field well. I love the fact that he's athletic, he's fast, he's strong. There isn't many times where you see the ball go to him and it not come down in his hands, which it's very hard for us as Jets fans because we've never, like, not for a long time now, like we see the ball go up and it's a contested catch and we go, all right, we might get it. So yeah, I think that's what I liked about him, in the fact that he's he's developed and he took that extra year, and this year he kind of really showed how good he could be. And I think that's why probably the next person we're going to talk about's numbers was so good this year, is because Olive took so much on from the defensive side. So it took him out of a few games, but he was still getting numbers. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How do you feel about Olive, or am I just like man loving for like 2 years now?
Go on, James.
Yeah, so my Wi-Fi's going, mate. Awful. But I watched Opinions on Olave, was it?
Yeah.
No, I tend to agree with you. I had my eye on Olave for quite some time now. Yeah, at least definitely all of last year and all of this year. Watched a lot of Ohio State, and he takes the top off the defense. He can run all the routes. I struggle to pick a fault with him, and I think if he's still there at the 10, I'd love us to pick him. I don't know what we'll do, but I think he's that weapon that we really need, that game-changing weapon. And
no, absolutely. I can't disagree, because I think, yeah. Kane, how do you feel about him? He's not your favourite, is he?
He's not my favourite. It's probably like top 5, but I can see why everyone loves him, like the speed and everything. He reminds me of Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, but a bit bigger.
Yeah, I don't know if it's what we need in our offense, but he's gonna go high no matter what anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many teams in this league that could do with him.
Yeah,
I mean, I seen a mock the other day with him going to the Saints, and I'm like, he would be great, but they probably need a quarterback before they need a wide receiver. I mean, it's all good having him and he can run, but there's nobody throwing to him. So yeah, I just like what he would bring to the table for Zach in that deep threat. Now let's jump straight from him and go to the guy that benefited from him staying in college, in my opinion, and Garrett Wilson, who at the moment is sitting there saying he is number 1 overall wide receiver. And what we're saying, I think it was your pick, wasn't it?
yeah. So
6 foot, 188 pounds, and you tell us about his 2021.
Well, he had 70 catches, 1,058 yards, 12 touchdowns, and averaged 15.1 a catch. Very explosive, expansive route tree because he lined up everywhere and played at high, obviously. Takes the ball out of the air rather than waiting for it to come to him. Makes the crazy catches, strong sideline awareness, and the only thing you can put down is when he anticipates contact. Sometimes he drops the ball, maybe.
Yeah, he's recoil a little bit, isn't it? Now, see, my big concern with him, so he's predicted numbers for this combine. Like, they're predicting that he's going to put in a vert higher than OBJ. He hasn't done that any time in game. Do you know what? He's done good vertical jumps to get the ball. Not OBJ type height, but everybody knows if you put OBJ on his tape and say, oh yeah, comparisons to OBJ, people are going to look at him. I don't think he's that good. Not OBJ coming out of college good. I do think he is explosive, and I think he's fast enough. I think everything about him, but I don't know. I feel like because it's only been 1 year, it's a little bit, yeah. I don't know. I just feel like it's a bit hypey. But if he puts the numbers up in the combine, I don't think he can ignore it. But yeah, I don't feel like I've seen enough from him. I mean, 70 catches and 1,000 yards. We've got tight ends who had 50 with 1,000 yards. So, yeah, you'd want more. 15-1 for your wide receiver, especially wide receiver 1, who's meant to be fast and getting past defenders. I would want a little bit more. But am I just being anti because I like Olive? Possibly. James, where are you on it?
Yeah, I mean, similar opinions to both of you, to be fair. He's kind of the A2, what would you call it? Yeah, A3 maybe. But I still think he's a very good weapon. Maybe another year at college to see that senior year. I'd imagine he'd get some insane numbers then to, really settle us. But I suppose what we've got is what we've got. So I'd be happy with him still. I'm a fan.
There is that bonus that he's a bit younger.
Yeah.
But then there's also that negative, he's a bit younger. you can't really win on that one. So Purdue's David Bell, James, tell us. Give us his stats, give us everything. Because I don't watch Purdue very often.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, he's got 3 years playing time. This year he's at a 1,286 yards, 93 catches, 6 touchdowns, 202 pounds, and 6'1". Nice size all around and great speed. Was literally the Purdue offense. I know he's not got the greatest touchdown numbers, but especially when they're playing like Ohio State or like a Michigan, like he was their only hope of being in that game every time and was the main target. I think
it's definitely fair. I mean, I say that I don't have him really highly rated, but I have him above Pickens and Dotson and a couple of others. So he's about a mid-table for me. I'm quite glad you mentioned him. Got the most boring name of all the wide receivers in the class, hasn't he? Like David Bell. He sounds like he should be a postman. What do you think about Bell, Kane?
I like him. I actually think he's going to go in the first round.
Yeah.
He's not like an all-round, like, every position wide receiver. He's more of a slot, I think. But when you watch his highlights, it's just controls the game, really. He is the highlight of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I know PFN have him at like number 40 overall.
Yeah, I think he's second round.
I mean,
I go first.
Yeah, it's just the whole thing about him is he's not the fastest, he's not the biggest, he's not the strongest. He can do everything okay. But there's been wide receivers that come into the league that aren't the fastest, aren't the strongest, and don't do anything the best, but they're pretty solid.
Cooper Kupp.
Coop.
That's a good.
No, it's a fair point. Like Cooper Kupp came in with zero expectation, and I think sometimes that's the best way for players to come in. Now we're talking David Bell's coming in with a little bit of expectation. I mean, we're talking early second round. He's got to be a day one starter. So yeah, I'm fair with that one. What about your guy Eric Azukanama from Texas Tech, Kane?
He's a hidden gem. 220 pounds, 48 yards, 48 catches, 705 yards, 4 touchdowns, average 14.7 a catch. I think his Traylon Perks 0.5. So like he's your budget Traylon Perks.
Right. I mean,
like, even the same. Like it is. If you go and watch his highlights, like that's what I'm saying. Go on. What is he gonna say?
All I was gonna say is like, yeah, Texas Tech. It's not a glamour school, is it? But it's a decent school. They're gonna give you a little bit. So what is it that makes Azukanama like pop for me? Because I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not gonna go and watch Texas film. If you can't tell at the minute, guys, I don't particularly like Texas football.
He's versatile, like he's lined up everywhere, slot outside and in motion. He's long-armed, athletic, and heavy at the same time, so making an all-round beast. Very elusive and fast, even with the size. Explosive off the line and after the catch in space. And he's got that deep speed to make defenders like scared of the deep shot at the same time. So,
yeah, I think we could actually do with something a bit like that. But again, it's that for me. I don't know if you're the same on this, James, but it's small school, small
Yeah,
tree.
root tree. Yeah. Footwork could do with some work, but if I think he's like rated in like the 4th or 5th round at the moment. So
yeah, there's always chance that he's going to be that diamond. I mean,
yep.
I'm not gonna lie. I've got him on the list just for ranking, but yeah, I've not looked much further into it because
go watch some tape and then oh my god, there's not much tape, but like what there is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I got him ranked early on in the year as 41st pick, 41st player on the list, but I do think some players have moved above him. Do you know much about him, James, or are you kind of like me, avoid Texas like the plague?
Wi-Fi super choppy, boys. Have you got me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. Yeah, to be honest, I just have to take a better look into Ezuke. Well, how we say his name? Not fully looked into it, but I'll take a look at the film and have a think. Not too familiar at the moment.
No, then little hidden gem.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with that one. So, your final one, James, was Drake London.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about him, and then we'll jump on to the last one, and then we're done for wide receivers, guys.
Yeah. I think can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, we've got you.
Yeah. Sorry. So we got Drake London, 3 years playing time, 1,084 yards this year, 7 touchdowns, 88 catches, 209 pounds, and 6'4". So great size, great film. Played with below average quarterback play, we'll say, not subpar, but not the greatest, and still had a pretty good senior year this year. I don't know if he's a senior, but still had a pretty good last year. So yeah, just someone I'd keep my eye out for coming up.
Yeah. I have Drake London as a little bit taller. I have him at 6'5.5", which makes him a bit of a specimen. USC wide receivers. There's been a couple of them stand out. I mean, we will be looking at him because, let's face it, if he's any good, AVT will have told the scouts that he's a good player, he's the right person for the locker room. And I think AVT's kind of proven himself as a bit of a like kind of one of those players who is going to step up. But it's that thing. AVT is the only USC player who's really stood out for us for a while. Kane, where do you sit on Drake London?
Yeah, I do like him. I'm a bit different than everyone else. He's on the hype train at the moment. Everyone's on the hype train for him. I get scared of USC players, to be honest, because we don't have much luck with it, as you said.
Yeah.
But he looks good on tape. He looks good size-wise. He's that big-bodied wide receiver that I think we need. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do have worries because he is tall. He's a bit big. So, do we lose the speed? Do we lose something? Is he easier to track because he's so bloody big? Like, you get some players who they are big but they're elusive, and nowhere in any game film that I've seen on him is he elusive. He still comes down with the ball a lot, but
he always seems to be in the middle of everyone or fighting like the defenders off him with the ball in his hand.
Yeah. No, again, I think we're going to find it very hard doing it this way with the three of us of disagreeing on any players. I mean, like my last one is Justin Ross from Clemson, another player that probably should have came to the league last year, but it was a strong class, decided to stay another year. He's 6'4" and 205 pounds. So he's a pretty big guy. 46 catches, 514 yards, 3 touchdowns, average of 11.2. He's at Clemson. who we all know struggled this year because Jesus left. I find it really hard to kind of get people to jump on the Justin Ross train, because I understand it's not the prettiest train to be on. Do you have any kind of, have you looked at him at all? Because I mean, he's ranked at about 86 on the chart. Yeah. He's got everything kind of about him, but it's that thing again, like he's not the best in them. But I think from the film I've seen, going down the boundary, and his awareness of the field, his awareness of where defenders are coming from is next level. And we've had a year extra of seeing that in college where, yeah, I just think everything about him says he's going to be a good NFL wide receiver. Nothing there at the minute says he should be elite. So he's probably going to be a second, may fall to the third rounder. Kane, where do you sit on the Clemson wide receiver?
I think he's had a bad year because of the quarterback situation. The whole team, to be honest, have all had a bad year. The year before, he was like in the talks for like first round, he declared. So I think he might be another bargain pick if you get him.
Yeah, I feel like my picks are all kind of bargains if you get them. James, what you said?
Yeah, I suppose just a bit lucky. Stayed on the Clemson train just one season too long. Would have been making millions of dollars his first year, probably last year. But it was probably not any knock on him this year. I think Clemson just fell apart in general. I can't remember what they finished on. Was it 6-6? But yeah, just had a terrible year in general. And
yeah, I think most of the time in college, when it comes down to a QB who's been there for 3 years and really dominated leaves, you're always going to have that kind of stutter on you. Yeah. But I think we've kind of covered there, guys, probably some of the best wide receivers in the class. I think we'll be lucky to get, if we get one or two of them, I would be over the moon.
That'd be amazing.
I mean, I look at it. We have, to be fair, we stuck to the brief really well. We've picked players that should be on the board at times when the Jets pick, whether we're reaching a little bit or whether we get lucky. Like, there's no way we're going to get Burks and Olive unless we go 4-10, and it's not going to happen. But yeah, I'm quite happy with wide receiver class. So the last one of the day, guys, is quarterbacks. So, guys, quarterbacks. This is a strange situation for us. It's the first time in a long while where we've not been kind of invested in the quarterback. Because even when we had Sam, we were still kind of looking at what was going past. So, obviously, this one, we're not going to talk about a load of quarterbacks. There's not that many quarterbacks worth talking about. We all agree on the same three. But I thought what we'll kind of talk about is the fact some teams that need quarterbacks, in our opinion, because there's quite a lot. So, Kane, any that you can think straight off the top of your head that need a quarterback?
Teams.
Sorry?
Teams.
Yeah.
Commanders, Steelers.
Tampa.
Oh, yeah. Unless I roll with Trask, but we ain't really seen him since.
Yeah, I can't see that one. So you've got Minnesota are at the last year of Kirk Cousins.
Denver as well.
Yeah. Lions maybe, Miami maybe.
Yeah, so this section, I'm quite glad we're not picking this year because actually it's a mad headache.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that we think need them.
Yep.
Right? And then we could also kind of argue in that Arizona are kind of on the edge because we don't know what's going on with Kyler Gate.
Giants as well.
And then you've got that thing of, right, so San Francisco may not take Jimmy G. So Jimmy G goes. So then San Fran needs somebody, but then Jimmy G's probably going to go to somebody. Right. Then it gets even more confusing because Aaron Rodgers might go to Denver, which then means Green Bay needs somebody. And if Detroit are going for a QB, that means Goff's available.
Yep.
And you've also got Mitch Trubisky at the Bills, who's becoming available. So there's so much available. The argument would be, do the 3 QBs in this draft that we've kind of picked out fit anywhere better than some of the possible free agents and trades? So we'll start with the first one. Matt Corral from Ole Miss. He's 6'1" and 205 pounds. Now, over the last couple of years, we've watched quite a bit of Ole Miss. It's a team that we always seem to kind of end up watching, those damn Rebels. Mm-hmm. Kane, how are you thinking about Corral? Because I know he's your pick.
3,349 yards this year, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and a QBR of 80.5. Finished with a little bit of an injury in the bowl game. He's got arm talent, can throw to tight windows, runs well, and is quite elusive. Just needs to work on his arm strength and accuracy on the deep throws. I do like him. I think he'll go third in the draft, third QB.
QB3, nice. James, what do you think about Corral?
Yeah, probably I haven't seen the same thing. It's my third favourite of the lot. But watched a lot of games. He's got a lot of heart and wants to play every game. Kind of. Was it the bowl game, his last game where he tore his ACL? Yeah. So the kid's got heart. He wants to play, and I'm a fan. And personally, see him going. I'm not too sure. To be fair.
There's a lot of teams that he will work well at, but he is coming back off that injury, which we know it's recoverable. Look at Joe Burrow this year. I mean, he's had a great year. Like where we're talking, like, do you see somebody like the Saints taking him, or could he be kind of that insert at Las Vegas, and then they let Mariota go somewhere, and he sits behind Carr for a year or two? There's a lot where I could see him kind of fitting in really well. Like, I really like the fact that he doesn't have the power in his arm of him going somewhere like Atlanta, where they play the majority of their games indoors. He's fitting in with Matt Ryan, who doesn't have the strongest arm. So they're already set for that kind of style of play of, you know what, he's a decent quarterback. I can't disagree. QB3 would be fine.
I'd like to see him go to the Commanders.
Yeah, the only thing is I think they need somebody a little bit more dynamic.
Yeah.
Because they're losing a couple of O-linemen this year. So
they can run.
Yeah, he can run, but he's just done his ACL, so you don't really want to make him run too much. Kenny Pickett from Pitt was on the list. So James, I know. Sorry, is he from Pitt or Penn? Pitt. Yeah, just on the notes he's wrote Penn. He's 6'3", 221 pounds. His stats this year were 4,319 yards, 42 TDs, 7 interceptions, and an 81.2 QBR. Do you watch much Pitt, James?
I've watched a couple of his games. Not like
how are you feeling around him? From like,
I quite like him. So I also like the other one we're going to talk about a lot. But as maybe being the most pro-ready. He's played 4 years in a pro-style offense and performed each year. So I could see him working like maybe not on a Commanders or a team that's on like a rebuild, but say if Denver don't get that Aaron Rodgers trade, I could see him maybe sliding into that pretty stacked Denver team and getting some success personally.
Yeah, I like the fact that Kenny Pickett is a bit of a bruiser. He's not afraid to take the hit. Like I see him play, and I kind of want to keep him in Pitt. Like he's like Big Ben without the court case.
That's where I want him to go.
Yeah, I think the fact that he was in for the Heisman, he'll stand and take the hit. You know that O-line are going to respect him.
They're going to have to trade him.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get him at 20.
Mm-hmm.
But they do have the facility to trade up if they need to.
Yep.
I know he's kind of the closest to pro ready, but at the same time, I kind of feel like he's also the one that's closest to his ceiling. I don't see him getting much better. He's about where he is. Do you get what I'm saying?
No, that's fair. I tend to agree. I think he's probably he is what.
Yeah, he's the nearest to pro ready, but he's already pretty much close to his ceiling. So he's got the highest floor of all the quarterbacks. Now, the last one that I kind of want to do, I'm just going to say I've been on this train since week 1 college year this year. He's from a little school, and I've had reservations about little schools, but it's Malik Willis from Liberty. He's 6'1", and he's 220 pounds. 2,857 yards. Excuse me. With 27 TDs and 12 interceptions, a QBR rating of 70. But he probably also got about 1,000 yards running.
He didn't really have much receiving help.
No, like he played at Liberty, guys. Like even the insurance company wouldn't cover him. It's one of them where I think what stood out about me is about him for me. He will literally leave it all on the field. Like I wouldn't be angry if we took him in the second round this year, and we did something dual with him like the Saints did with Tyson Hill. Like I like this kid for what he's going to bring to the locker room. The first game, I think the first time I showed him to you guys, where he looked like he broke his leg, and he walked back on that field and done a full drive, pretty much on one leg for a mobile QB. He's got the strongest arm. He can pretty much throw anything deep, and it's fast. It's got power. The Senior Bowl, everybody umped him. They put him up to QB1 because the kid's knowledge is unbelievable. Like they're expecting him to get a wonderless score, like up there with like Fitzmagic. And like you're like, what? Like this kid could be like actually legit the next like Kyler meets Lamar hybrid. What you saying, Kane? Because I know obviously me and you have talked about him probably more than anybody else.
Yeah. I think he's QB2, but he's going to be a problem for defenses. He's like Lamar Jackson, but he can throw. He hasn't had much help, but like you see his interviews at Senior Bowl, you see how down to earth he is. Like he's not full of himself. He's not a stupid player. Like he knows that he's probably got a bit more work to do, but he's going in the right direction. Like, and he's definitely, I think he'll be like the second quarterback picked in the draft. and he's getting a lot of hype.
Yeah. James, where are you on the Malik Willis train?
Full steam ahead, mate. Choo choo.
I mean, obviously there is negatives. He's from a smaller school. Like, we know it doesn't always transfer.
No, I mean he's originally signed with Auburn. Couldn't win the job there for whatever reason. I don't know how, because their quarterback play is typically pretty awful past couple of years. So gone out, got his opportunity, and made the most out of it. Electric.
I think with Auburn, it was very much they needed a pocket scheme passer, a bit like Mac Jones. That's kind of the style of offense that they play, and he needs to be a little bit more creative. Where do you think's a good fit for him?
I think Steelers probably for me. I'd say pretty perfect. Got the run game already.
Imagine how awful that division will be next year if he goes there. Joe Burrow, Malik Willis, Lamar Jackson, and that other one that we don't talk about. Just for next year until he gets dropped. Because I could see them taking him at 13. I could see him going to the Browns at 13. I mean, I don't think I want it. I could see it. Where do you think he could end up, Kane?
I'm trying to think who needs quarterbacks. Can't think.
Washington, Steelers, Tampa, Vikings, Denver, Lions, maybe.
Tampa would be nice. A lot to trade. But I actually think Steelers as well, because to compete with Lamar, the same division.
Yeah, and I think Steelers are really on that train of getting guys that are maybe a little bit underdoggy. They want somebody with a bit of bite behind the back.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a while since I've felt passion from the Steelers. Defense, they're all over it. I mean, those guys would bleed if they needed to. Like, they'd give up fingers if they knew they could get a win. But I think offensively, they've been a bit prima donna.
I think as a quarterback, like how he is as well, like he'd go in there and like calm the receivers down a bit, like all those stupid like diva actions. Go in and command it, like.
Yeah, and I think with what we heard from the Senior Bowl, the way people just kind of radiate and listen to him, it might be what they need. But I do feel like if these quarterback moves go the way that we're expecting in the next couple of weeks, which they're going to, guys, it'll be after the combine. We'll already know these stats. But if he doesn't stand out at the combine, which I find it very hard that he won't, all of a sudden you start thinking, well, is 20 too high? Will they get him at 20? Because there's a lot of teams above that could go QB. So yeah, it's the QB one. It's really interesting, but it's awesome that we're not involved.
Yeah, it's
great.
So that's day one of the combine, guys. We are going to do day 2, day 3, day 4. So keep watching. Give us a like, give us a share. You know what? Give us some comments. Let us know what you want to see. If you like what we're saying, if you don't like what we're saying, we don't really care. We're going to keep doing it, but it's still nice to hear from you. So yeah, we'll speak to you soon, guys. Cheers.